Welcome back. All right, so 8 games tonight in the National Hockey League, and really some interesting changes in terms of who's where in the playoff race. And then I've already got the power rankings figured out for tonight. There's some big movement on the power rankings because, again, it really is kind of all over the place. How we feel about teams from one night to the next can really change. I love this time of year when teams are close and the playoff races aren't decided. All right, we're going to start things off talking about Pittsburgh and Florida. Pittsburgh came into this one on a 4-game winning streak and looking really home and cold when it came to the playoffs. Coming out of this one, I don't know. They've been so hot and cold, they could go into another cold streak. We'll see. So it's DeSmith versus Bobrovsky. Early jump for the Panthers, who finally played like this is really, really important and they want to make the playoffs, and maybe they can keep this up. O'Connor has a net feed that's blocked. There's a press by the Penguins at 3.5 minutes. Power play for Pittsburgh as well. Gensel fires one high. They cycle. Back-to-back clears by the Panthers. That's killed off. No shots for Pittsburgh on their power play. Lomberg has a net feed. That's cleared. The Panthers press. Cannot get to the net. There's a press by the Penguins with 6 minutes left. The shots are 3 apiece with 5.5 minutes left, and then Florida just kind of turns it on. Tkachuk couldn't bury a rebound on a rush. Forsling has a shot that's held as the Panthers press. Things get pushy on a hold by DeSmith. This game was really testy as well. Last minute, there's a press by the Penguins. They don't get shots. And then on a rebound after a breakaway chance for Verhaeghe, Bennett scores. Verhaeghe and Tkachuk with the assists at 19:38. And then with 6.2 seconds left, the Florida Panthers get a power play. So it's 1-0 Florida after one. Second period, Ekblad couldn't bury one. Bennett's denied on a rush. That power play's killed off. Malkin has a blast that's held. The Panthers go back to the power play. Montour has a shot that's blocked, and then Ekblad scores on the power play from Barkov and Montour at 4 minutes and 11 seconds. Panthers then press for another. We get a power play for the Penguins. It becomes 1 minute and 30 seconds of 5-on-3. There's a shorthanded rush by Barkov. Then there's a shorthanded rush by Bennett shortly after that. They do kill that off. Mercifully for Pittsburgh, the power play comes to an end. Panthers press after the kill. There's a power play for the Panthers. They overpass during that, though. That's killed off. The Penguins go back to the power play. They score on this one. It's Letang from Gensel and Malkin at 8 minutes and 51 seconds. We had a crossbar for Lomberg on a play shortly thereafter. Crosby couldn't bury one on a fast break. And then just before the period's out, Luostarinen scores from Barkov at 19 minutes and 50 seconds. That makes it 3-1 after 2 in favor of the Florida Panthers. Third period, Russ denied and close. Panthers press at 2.5 minutes. Duclair fans on a shot on a 2-on-1. Joseph defends a Verhaeghe rush. Tkachuk has a 2-on-1 chance. That's held. Crosby fires one wide on a rush. Things get pushy on a hold by Bobrovsky. The shots are 6-1 for the Penguins at 6.5 minutes. And then Verhaeghe wires one far side from Tkachuk and Montour at 9 minutes and 53 seconds. That makes it 4-1 for Florida. Zucker then hit Bobrovsky, and we get some violence out of that. It was a 2-minute call. I will agree with Florida announcers. You might have been able to get more than 2 minutes out of that. But at any rate, it's 2 minutes. There's a shorthanded rush chance for Russ that's saved. The game gets really chippy at this point. That power play's killed off. Things get punchy with 6:02 left. The Panthers go back to the power play. Things get punchy with 4:03 left. The Penguins go to the power play. Everything's killed off there, but these teams, a lot of punching in the third period between them. And I think Zucker with the hit on Bobrovsky probably got that started, but it was pretty testy before that. So the shots, or the score is 4-1 in favor of Florida. They go to 31, 27, and 6 and keep their playoff hopes alive. Pittsburgh 31, 22, and 9 with the loss. Shots in this one 13-3 Florida in the first, 18-16 Florida in the second, 13-11 Pittsburgh in the third. The final shots 42-32 for Florida. Both teams 1 for 5 on the power play. Hits 23-14 for Florida. DeSmith 38 saves on 42 shots. Bobrovsky 31 saves on 32 shots. So yeah, pretty entertaining game there. Speaking of the Capitals and the Sharks, I got a kick out of this. I watched the Sharks feed on this one. Kemper versus Kakkonen in this one. The Sharks press at 1.5 minutes. There's a near miss for Lawrence. The shots are 5-1 San Jose at 3.5 minutes. Caps press at 5.5 minutes. Kakkonen makes saves there. We get a power play for the Capitals. Backstrom has a shot that's blocked. They cycle. That power play is killed off. The Caps get some pressure after it's done. The Sharks then get themselves a power play and they score on it. It's Hurdle from Carlson and Eklund at 12:03. Eklund making his season debut with the Sharks this year. And yeah, he looks better now than he did last year when he had his cup of coffee with them. So that was scored late in the power play, but they all count as power play goals. Sharks then press for another. The shots are 16-4. San Jose with 6.5 minutes left. And then Barabanov scores at 15:30 from Couture and Johnson. Andreas Jansson's back to Johnson, I guess, or stayed Johnson, and we just started calling him Janssen. I don't know. I stay out of it. There's a lot of Swedes, though, in this lineup now in San Jose. And I picked up on this, when they made the trade with Timo Meier. I was like, okay, so it's going to be Team Sweden. Cool. 2:38 left. The Sharks get a power play. It's a 4-minute power play. So that rolls over into the second period, but it's all killed off. The Sharks then press after it's all done. Kakinen ends up losing a blade. The whistle would go afterwards. Ovi to Kuznetsov is picked off. We get a power play for San Jose. The Caps clear early. That's killed off. Now, it is, while the score is 2-0 for San Jose, that the Sharks announcers are like, they had the 2-0 lead against St. Louis. It'd be a shame if the second period was a disaster like it was in the St. Louis game. And here we go. So, the shots are 6-2 for the Sharks at 7.5 minutes. As a result of the power play they get that the Caps end up killing off. The Sharks are pressed. They're kept to the outside after it's done. And then Craig Smith wires one on a rush. It's a 2-on-1 from Strome and Milano at 8:46. The Caps press at the half. They have some momentum. And then Aube-Kubel with some puck luck, a little bit of a lucky bounce. He gets a goal from Sherry and Dowd at 11:30. Caps press. They draw themselves a power play. There's a near miss for Kuznetsov. It's cycled. At 15:28, the Caps add another. They now have the lead. It's Irwin from Gabriel Carlson and Aube-Kubel. So Aube-Kubel with a goal and an assist. Caps press with 1.5 minutes left. The Caps score, but it's waved off for gloving the puck into the net. Craig Smith immediately said no. And you could tell by the way he went over to the referee that he wasn't complaining or whining, but he was just saying, no, that's not what happened. So the replay showed that he did glove it, or maybe he didn't actually touch it with his glove, but it touched the stick after anyways. So it's a goal. Craig Smith with his second of the period from Sandin and Strome at 19:02. Sharks then press to respond, but they're down 4-2 after 2. It would get worse in the third. McDonald has a shot that's held as the Sharks press. The Caps would press back at 5.5 minutes. Washington gets a power play, and they score on it. It's Oshie from Ovechkin and Sandin at 5:50. Shots are 6-3 for the Caps 8 minutes in. At 9:02, Nico Sturm scores from Gregor and Carlson. So Carlson gets a couple of points in this one. And then Ovechkin answers 9 seconds later. Wilson and Carlson with the assists on that. That's number 814. And he enjoyed that so much he hits 815 at 16:05. Iorio with his first NHL point in his first NHL game. And there's Sandin again with another helper. So first NHL point for Iorio, and we'll see how things go for him from here. But I thought Sandin had a really solid game. That's one, that's two. Yeah, he just had the two helpers tonight, but good for him. And then Strome at 17:30 adds insult to all this from Milano. And so that means that the No Mercy magnet's on the board. See, it was there the whole time. So, yeah, 8-3 is your final score for the Capitals. They go to 31, 27, and 6. They're not out of this. They have the same record as Florida. For San Jose, they're 18, 33, and 12 with the loss. Rough loss for them. That's why the score is so crooked. The shots 20-5 for San Jose in the first. They had a great first period. Couldn't follow it up. The shots are 15-9 Washington in the second. 12-10 San Jose in the third. Final shots 41-30 for San Jose. Power plays Washington 1 for 3. San Jose 1 for 4. Hits 28-23 in favor of the Capitals. Kemper saves 38 out of 41. Kakinen saves 22 out of 30. Rough night for Capo, and we'll see how things go in the next one. All right, next up, Columbus and Ottawa. So this was a rough night for Columbus. Great night for Ottawa, and if you're a believer, and I'm getting there. I am. They were even chanting, we want playoffs in this one. It's Merzlikins versus Talbot. Brassard, they had a nice 1,000 game ceremony for him. He, of course, had that in New York. Batherson fires one high on a rush. There's an early jump for the Sens. Batherson's denied as Ottawa presses, and then Hamonic would open the scoring. He scores from Joseph and Sanderson at 5:17. But 18 seconds later, Roslovic gets that back and ties it. The shots are 5-3 for the Sens at 7.5 minutes. 3 was as much as Columbus got in the first period. They didn't get another shot the rest of the way. Brandstrom has a net feed that won't go, and then Stützle on a 3-on-1 rush. He scores from Tkachuk and Chychrun at 11:18. Sens then press for another. Brandstrom has a shot that's held. It's all Sens at this point. Tkachuk has a backhand that's held as well. 28.5 seconds left. The Sens get a power play, so that rolls over into the second period. Stützle has a shot that's kicked aside. It's killed off as Chychrun was denied as well. Chychrun had a very good game tonight for Ottawa. And then Hamonic at 2:16 scores from DeBrincat and Sanderson. At 3:04, Chychrun adds a goal to go with the assist he had earlier in the period. Brandstrom and Gauthier with the assists, and that would end the night for Merzlikins. Michael Hutchinson is now in the net. To which I'm sure there were some watching that went, Hutchinson's a Blue Jacket? So Columbus had 3 total shots. They hadn't had a shot yet in the second period. They hadn't had a shot since about the 7-minute mark of the first period, I think. At any rate, the shots are 8-1 for the Sens at 5 minutes, so Columbus got a shot in there. Gaudreau has a net feed this block. There's a power play for Columbus, and they score on it. It's line A from Marchenko at 10:56. So Marchenko has 2 assists to go with his 16 goals. That was a one-timer high glove, so that ends up making it 4-2. Hamonic exited after he got hurt on a shot block. He would return. We get 2 minutes of 4-on-4. We get a power play for the Sens shortly thereafter. DeBrincat to Tkachuk. There's a near miss, but it's 4-2 Ottawa after 2. Third period. Jackets press at a minute and a half. Jenner has a wraparound that's saved. The Sens get pinned down a bit. They needed a break, and they ended up getting a hold from Talbot, who knew they needed a line change there. Jackets press again at 4.5 minutes. The shots are 3-2 in favor of Columbus 6 minutes into the period. We get a power play for Columbus, and then, Stützle gets away with one here. So Blankenberg's down. He gets tripped. It was a trip by Stützle, and it knocked the blade out of Blankenberg's skate too, so he couldn't get up. Stützle gets the goal on the break from Joseph. It's a shorthanded goal at 12:07. And it's funny because the announcer said he looks back here probably not realizing how on his own he was. I think he was looking back to see if the referee was going to call a penalty. That's how I saw it. But at any rate, there you go. That makes it 5-2. The Sens then finish the kill. Stützle is denied on a 2-on-1 rush. And in the end, Ottawa wins this one 5-2. They go to 32, 26, and 4 on the season. Columbus 20, 37, and 6 on the season with the loss. Shots in this one, 15-3 Ottawa in the first, 13-8 Ottawa in the second, 11-10 Ottawa in the third. Final shots, 39-21 for Ottawa. Power plays, Columbus 1 for 2, Ottawa 0 for 2. The hits, 27-24 for Ottawa. Merzlikins saves 19 out of 23. Hutchinson saves 15 out of 16. And Talbot saves 19 out of 21. So, Ottawa keeps going. Their playoff chances are still there. All of the teams they're fighting with for that last playoff spot won. The difference being the loss by Pittsburgh. But everybody else got their victories today. This is going to be great down the stretch. Next up, Edmonton and Winnipeg. If these guys meet in the playoffs, this could be an absolutely bonkers playoff. Of course, for that to happen, odds are that means Western Conference Final, and that means all of Canada would be a winner in this. So it's Campbell versus Hellebuck. It was WASAC night, WASAC night. So for the native Métis tie-in that they had, I figured I'll wear that jersey too because I have it. It's one of the few Fanatics that I have in my collection because they haven't made this in an Adidas because they need to. They need to make this an actual third jersey for the Jets. Please, I'm saying this on behalf of all of us. So it's Campbell versus Hellebuck, and so you know right away it's Campbell. You're probably going to see some goals against. Hellebuck has been a little bit shakier than normal lately, although the defense in front of him has been as well. So Capobianco tests Campbell early. There's a power play for the Oilers at a minute and a half, and I just wrote not good because this was the problem they had against Edmonton last night. 9 power plays. Tonight, they only had 3 against them. Draisaitl scores on it, though, 13 seconds in. Hyman and Bouchard at 1:43 with the assists. Jets go to the power play. That's killed off. The shots are 4 apiece, 7.5 minutes in. Scheifele then ties it. It's a screenshot. It's deflected in. DeMello and Niederreiter with the assists at 11:34. So Nino fitting in pretty well and producing for them. Oilers press with 6 minutes left. Scheifele has a shot that deflects out. And then Morrissey scores one from Pionk. That's at 15:09. The Jets then press for another. Things get pushy after a hold by Campbell. It's 2-1 in favor of the Jets after the first period. Second period. Early press by Winnipeg. The shots are 3-0 in their favor 2.5 minutes in. We get a power play for the Jets, and during that, it is a shorthanded marker for the Edmonton Oilers. It's Janmark from Nugent Hopkins at 2:57, and then most importantly, the Oilers finish killing the penalty. Draisaitl would then add one. He steals it, beast mode, and buries what was his 40th goal. That's at 6:12. So Leon Draisaitl having a fantastic season, but in really, to their credit, Winnipeg fights back. Lowry from Barron and Nemesnikov. That's at 6:54. Nemesnikov, who'd been ice cold this year for Tampa, gets a couple of points tonight. So this is the start of it, and then Capobianco scores from Wheeler at 7:16. So 1:04 after Edmonton takes the lead, Winnipeg takes the lead right back. This game was absolutely bonkers. Jets press for another, but we get a power play for the Oilers that was 1-for-1 thus far, and it became 2-for-2. Draisaitl scores this one from McDavid and Bouchard at 9:18. That one he tips in, and so all of a sudden we got a tie game again. But at 10:45, a little over a minute later, Barron gets that back. He scores from Morrissey, so lots of goals in this period of hockey. The Jets press with 7.5 minutes left. They had some momentum in the second half as well. We get a fight between Nurse and Lowry. Jets come out of that with a power play. And then Morrissey on that power play scores at 19:58 from Connor and Scheifele. So that's what, 7 goals in the second period. Just ridiculous. 7 goals in the second period of this game. And then in the third period at 2:55, Bjugstad scores his first as an Oiler from Shore and Bouchard. The Jets would press at 4.5 minutes, looking to get that back. We get a power play for the Oilers. That's killed off. Shots are 5-3 for the Oilers at 8 minutes. Near miss for McDavid as the Oilers press. Hyman's denied on a rush. Connor has a shot that deflects out with 2:45 left. Goalie pull as the Oilers are pressing, and then DeMello hits the empty net from the other end of the ice from Nemesnikov at 19:25. So there's another assist for Nemesnikov, and the Jets hold on. They win this one 7-5. They go to 36-25-4. It's an ugly win. They needed it. They had lost 6 in a row coming into tonight. For Edmonton, they're 34-22-8 with the loss. Shots in this one, 13-10 Winnipeg in the first, 19-11 Winnipeg in the second, 14-7 Edmonton in the third. Final shots, 39-35 in favor of Winnipeg. Power plays, Edmonton 2-for-3, Winnipeg 1-for-3. Hits 29-13 for Winnipeg. Campbell saves 32 out of 38, not his night. Hellebuck, 30 saves on 35 shots. I don't know if it was his either necessarily, but boy, was it ever entertaining to watch. And now I need to change boards. All right, the surprise of the night is up next. Toronto and Vancouver. So it's Murray versus Demko. Thatcher Demko is back. And this reminded me that the goaltending the Canucks have had, and bless Spencer Martin and Colin Delia for what they tried to do for the Canucks this year. But yeah, they really have not had the kind of goaltending that Thatcher Demko can provide when he's healthy and he's playing well. And right now he looks fantastic. So power play for the Canucks early on. It's killed off. No shots. The Go Leafs Go chants were really loud tonight. I always think that the Go Leafs Go chants fire the Canucks up. And I think it fires up teams at home too. They want to make those chants go away. Bunting has a net feed that's held. There's another power play by the Canucks. That was killed off as well. Nylander's then denied on a breakaway. The shots are 3-1 for the Leafs 9 minutes into this. 13 hits in the first 11 minutes of the game. Interestingly enough, there were only 39 altogether. So it looked like there was going to be this big hitting game. It kind of quieted down after that. Bunting is denied as the Leafs press. We get a power play for Toronto. That's killed off. Nylander defends a chance for Kravtsov. Matthews gets hurt on a block shot. He exits. He would return. Don't worry, Leafs fans. The Leafs press to close. There's some pushing at the horn. It's scoreless after 1, even though Toronto outplayed Vancouver by a large margin. But Demko reasons. Second period. Early power play for Toronto. That's killed off. The Canucks press at 3.5 minutes. They do not get a shot. The shots are 4-0 Toronto 5 minutes in. So they're 18-5 overall. Toronto's dominating. Matthews returns, but they had him playing the wing, which means he wasn't 100%, and if you're playing the wing, you don't have as much responsibility. Willanen's denied on a 2-on-1. There's a press by the Canucks with 5.5 minutes left. The Leafs, with an icing, it prolongs 2+ minute shifts for them. They got pinned down by the Canucks a little bit there late. The shots are 7-5 for the Canucks with 5 minutes left. With 3:28 left, the Canucks get a power play, and they score on it. It's Kuzmenko from Hughes and Besser at 17:51. Good cycle, tipped in by Kuzmenko. The Leafs press to tie, and Quinn Hughes with some saves as well. Quinn Hughes often gets criticized for his defense. I think defensively he's solid. I'm not saying he's one of the best around, but I think people overly criticize his defense. I think he's good. Third period, with the Canucks up 1-0, there's a power play for Toronto, and they score on it at 1:32. It's Tavares from Marner and Riley. Good cycle, buried. Vancouver's penalty kill is at historically low levels, meaning It is historically the worst penalty kill in the history of the National Hockey League since they started tracking penalty kills and power plays. Then there's a post for Kerfoot, so we were almost at 2-1 for Toronto. Momentum was with Toronto. Nylander has a chance that's held, and the Leafs would end up going back to the power play. However, there's a shorthanded marker. I put PPG up there by accident. It's a shorthanded goal. I even put underneath the sixth shorthanded goal allowed by the Leafs this season. Pettersson from Miller and Myers at 6:49. And then it's another shorthanded goal. JT Miller from Pettersson. It was a breakaway goal for Miller at 7:33. So JT Miller with a goal and an assist. I think maybe it's a good thing they kept him. At any rate, the Canucks finished the kill, and then at 12:34, Amon scores from Besser and DiGiuseppe. The goalie pull would take place with 3:35 left because all of a sudden they're down by 3. They need something. However, after about a minute, with 2:30 left, they relent. Sheldon Keefe puts Murray back in the net during the play. So Vancouver wins this one 4-1. They go to 25-32-5. Toronto 38-17-8 with the loss. Shots in this one, 14-5 Toronto in the first, 11-9 Vancouver in the second, 14-8 Toronto in the third. Final shots 37-24 for the Maple Leafs. Power plays, Toronto 1 for 4, Vancouver 1 for 3. The hits 23-16 for Vancouver. Murray saves 20 out of 24. Demko 36 saves on 37 shots. So coming into tonight, his save percentage was .888. It's going to be above that. One thing that is good with Vancouver is that Demko is, in his prime, and he's a fantastic goaltender. And right now he's playing like the Demko that we knew from last year. So there's some optimism there, and I understand that. I also think some Canuck fans are going to be frustrated because they're going to win some games before the end of the year. They're going to win some games. They're going to move up in the standings, and we know the storyline. We've seen this before, haven't we? All right. Then during the summer, they're like, see, we're not that far off. All right, next up. Nashville in against Chicago. Saros versus Mrazek. Both of these teams kind of had their hearts cut out at the deadline, and it kind of played like a game like that. There was not the intensity you'd normally see, especially with a team with Nashville, right? So Seth Jones scores on an early rush on the first shot for Chicago at 37 seconds. Athanasiou and Reichel with the assists. Shots are 3-0 Chicago at 3.5 minutes. Nashville would get a power play. They would score on it. It's Tomasino from Trenton and Sherwood at 9:36. Caleb Jones passes. Should have shot on a play there. We get 2 minutes of 4-on-4. McDonough has a slot shot. That's saved. Entwistle fires wide on a 3-on-2 rush. It's 1-1 after 1. Second period. Hawks press at a minute and a half. Radish was denied as the Hawks are controlling things. The shots on net are 2-0 Chicago at 5 minutes. Power play for Chicago. That's killed off. There were no shots for Nashville in the first half of the period, but they would get a press and they would score. It's Barry from McDonough and Novak at 12:08. That one went in off Kurashev's stick, which broke on the play. The Preds with momentum with the lead. They would end up getting themselves a power play. That's killed off, but it's 2-1 Nashville after 2. Third period. Preds start the period with a full power play. That was killed off, no shots. So that had to be disappointing because they had the whole, in between the second and third to figure something out. It doesn't work. But Nashville presses after. They're kept to the outside. In fact, the shots on net are 2-0 Chicago at 3.5 minutes. Sherwood has a turnover chance. That's held. Sissons has a one-timer saved. The Hawks rush. Dickinson was denied as the Hawks press. There's a power play for Chicago. That's killed off. Things get punchy with 5:06 left, so we get 2 minutes of 4-on-4 out of that. Barry has a screenshot that's held. The goalie pull takes place with 2 minutes left. 59.5 seconds left. The Hawks call a timeout. Whatever was discussed doesn't work. Sissons gets an empty netter from McDonough at 19:30, and that was after some shot blocking by Nashville. So Nashville wins this one 3-1. They go to 31-23-6. It is a very narrow road that is ahead of them if they want to reach the playoffs, but they're staying in this. For Chicago, they're 21-36-5 on the season. In fact, Nashville is now the top team below the playoff line in the West. So shots in this one, 9 apiece in the first, 8-7 Chicago in the second, 11-9 Chicago in the third. Final shots 28-25 for the Blackhawks. Power plays, Nashville 1 for 3, Chicago 0 for 2. Hits 27-25 for Chicago. Saros saves 27 out of 28. He also is going to keep them in the hunt. Mrazek saves 22 out of 24. Played well, but now that the offense got traded, which was Max Domi, now we're seeing a Chicago team that really and truly is not able to score. The offense just isn't there. So, interesting tactic at the deadline to get rid of the guys who were scoring. We know what they're doing, and they seem to know what they're doing as well. All right, next up, Minnesota and Calgary. So there's a Tony the Tiger magnet because somebody was great tonight. And I think, honestly, this belongs to all of the Minnesota Wild tonight. It is not pretty hockey. Doesn't have to be. It's winning hockey. So it's Gustafsson versus Markstrom. Good back and forth early. Backlund is denied on a 2-on-1. Dewar has a net drive that's defended. That's the Calgary one. There's Connor Dewar. It does get confusing because they're spelled differently, but they're pronounced the same. There's a Dewar in Minnesota. There's a Dewar in Calgary. And it does kind of throw things off. Eriksson Ek has a net feed that's held. Things get pushy after a hole by Markstrom, who had the fantastic mask that he wears with the horse head jersey. That mask is absolutely gorgeous. The Flames press at 6.5 minutes. Mangiapane has a net feed that's held. Neither team are allowing long passes and presses, and just it's a defensive clinic at this point. Things get punchy after Eriksson Ek tries to jam one in, and then he would score. At 14:52, he tips one through a screen. Johansson and Boldy with the assists. Initially was given to Johansson. By the third period, they'd given it to Eriksson Ek. It was a double deflection. No chance from Markstrom on that. Shots are 7-6 for the Wild with 4 minutes left. It's a Minnesota game. 2:40 left. The Flames get a power play. There's a shorthanded rush by Shaw. He fires wide there. Pelche with a near miss on a rebound. That power play's killed off. 2 shots. So after the first period, it is 1-0. Second period. Early press by the Wild. Hartman is denied. Shots are 4-1 Minnesota, 2.5 minutes in. Reeves has a chance that's held. Flames, really just no room for them out there. No room, no chances, nothing. But they get a power play. During that, Backlund has a shot that deflects high. That power play's killed off. The Wild then rush the other way. Dumba out of the box as they're rushing. He's denied by Markstrom. The hitting ramps up a bit at the half. The hitting doesn't stay there in this one either. Power play for the Wild. They were 1 for their last 13 coming into this one. Spoiler alert, they're now 1 for their last 15. It's killed off, no shots. So the penalty kill for Minnesota has been absolutely perfect for, 12 games now? But the power play is not working. Kadri has a shot deflect high. The Flames press. Markstrom with a turnover almost makes it 2-0. He turned it over behind his net. He was very lucky. Lewis kind of helped him out there to keep it out of the net. Gaudreau then fires one wide on a turnover chance. The Wild are forcing a lot of turnovers. Sticks in lanes, not giving the Flames anything easy. And after 2 periods, it's still only 1-0, but it feels like it's a lot bigger of a deficit for Calgary than that. Third period, Boldy's denied and close. The Flames clear. There was 1 shot on net, and the Wild had it 3.5 minutes in. Weegar, Flat, and Steele. The Wild, really, the trap's in effect, and even the announcers were talking about the trapping of the Wild, so it's not just me saying it. Weegar has a shot that saved. The Wild ice it shortly thereafter. We get a power play for Minnesota. There's a shorthanded break for Toffoli. He's denied. That power play's killed off. And then one of those fluke goals that just, it goes in when your team's on a heater. It won't go in when your team's ice cold. But Foligno gets it. It flutters. It bounces off the back of the net. It hits Markstrom in the back and in. I would think you could show a replay of that with Sweet Georgia Brown playing, and it would work. So Foligno from Gaudreau and Steele at 13:49. Flames press with 5 minutes left, but Boldy would score from Eriksson Ek at 16:30. It's a one-timer, and so Minnesota with a 3-0 lead, and that would be your final score. Minnesota goes to 36-21-6. They're 9-1-2 in their last 12. Calgary 27-23-13 with the loss. This is a tough one. They now fall behind Nashville. The teams they're chasing have played less games than they have. It's a horrible, horrible scenario. Shots on net, 8 apiece in the first, 12-11 Minnesota in the second, 12 apiece in the third. Final shots, 32-31 for Minnesota. Power plays, both teams 0 for 2 in this one. Hits, 23-18 Calgary. Gustafsson saves all 31 shots for his second career shutout, also his second this season. Markstrom, 29 saves on 32 shots. I also want to say, too, I always get a kick out of whenever Gustafsson's time in Ottawa is mentioned, and people are like, well, he wasn't figuring it out in Ottawa, so they had to get rid of him. No, he's young. Young goaltenders go through tough years, and I think if he'd stayed in Ottawa, I think he still would have had a really good year for Ottawa this year. So, yes, Minnesota, the goaltending coaching, working with Fleury might have helped, but the idea that Gustafsson was awful in Ottawa, I don't necessarily see it that way. Anyways, moving along. Last game of the night, St. Louis and LA, and I was sure this was going to go to a shootout, but it didn't. So, Bennington versus Korpisalo. If you had any doubts or any concerns about Korpisalo, I would think tonight's performance would make you feel a little better about LA's goaltending. Arvidsson's tonight and close. Kempe fires one high. The Kings had the edge. The shots are 4-0 in their favor, 2.5 minutes in. And at 3:14, Grundstrom tips one in. Roy and Kupari with the assist there, so it's 1-0 LA. Kings press for another. The Blues would press at 6.5 minutes. They're kept to the outside. Power play for St. Louis. Buchnevich has a chance that's held. A crossbar for the Blues as that comes to an end. The Blues go back to the power play. Buchnevich is denied again. That's killed off. There's a post then for Lazat on a rush. And then the Blues tie it. Thomas from Buchnevich and Falk at 18:05. He buries a rebound. It's just they gave St. Louis too many opportunities. As the period went on, St. Louis got more and more momentum, and eventually one was going to go in, and it did. Velarde nearly answers. The Kings get some pressure, but it's 1-1 after one. Second period. Early press by the Kings. The shots are 3-0 in their favor at 3 minutes, so it's another fast start for LA. Blues press at 4.5 minutes. The Kings are shot blocking, but they're also having turnover issues, so they're having to block shots because they keep committing some errors here, unforced as well. Power play, though, for the Kings. Velarde can't bury one early. Kopitar is then denied. That's killed off. The Kings would press afterwards. Roy has a shot that's held as the Kings are in control. The shots are 9-3 in their favor halfway through. And then Kempe scores his 29th of the season from Byfield at 12:50. Byfield didn't finish the game. He left with what appeared to be a concussion, but he may have just been in the quiet room. We'll see what the update is on Byfield. I didn't do a news video today because I was taking a bit of a break today, just watching all the hockey after all of the stuff that happened yesterday. But tomorrow I'll have time to do news videos and we can talk about injuries, and hopefully Byfield's okay. Third period, the Blues pressed at 1.5 minutes. Or no, we're not going to do the third period yet because I got the Byfield part. So that's top corner on a rush. Kings press for another. The Blues press with 5.5 minutes left. Fiala has a last-minute chance to deflect out. Now we can talk about the third period with the Kings ahead 2-1. The Blues press at 1.5 minutes. There we go. Kapanen has a net feed that's blocked. Grundstrom has a rush chance that's held. Parayko has a blast that's held. The Blues get a power play. That leads to a shorthanded rush for Deno. That was saved. The power play's killed off. The Blues press at the half, and then on a breakaway, Kapanen gets his first as a Blue from Saad at 12 minutes and 11 seconds. Then the Kings get a power play. So this is St. Louis shooting themselves in the foot. Kopitar was robbed, and then shortly after they cycle it, Velarde gets his 21st of the year from Fiala and Doughty at 16:56. So that puts him ahead. And that was a nice goal scorer's goal by Velarde. Absolutely gorgeous. This kid, the upside for Velarde is, I think, still pretty high. I think he's going to be a 30-goal scorer in the NHL. Goalie pull happens, and shortly after, at 18:04, Fiala hits the empty net. Arvidsson with the assist. That salts this one away. Your final score is 4-2 for the Kings. This is game number 1,000 in the NHL this year. We have 312 games left to go. So I was watching this, and there's a place where it'll show you on the game sheet which game it is, and I was like, I've watched 1,000 games this year. That's insane. So, yeah, although there are a few that I've missed because I've gone to games and such, but basically 1,000 is pretty close. So the Kings go to 36-20-8 with the win. St. Louis 27-30-5 with the loss. The shots in this one, 11-8 St. Louis in the first, 16-7 LA in the second, 14-8 LA in the third. Final shots 38-26 for the Kings. Power plays, the Blues 0-for-3. LA 1-for-3, the hits 26-16 for St. Louis. Bennington saves 33 out of 36. Korpisalo saved 24 out of 26. So both goalies were very good, and I thought Korpisalo likely alleviated any fears people had of him coming in from Columbus. His numbers in Columbus, look at the save percentage, look at quality starts. He was very good. Goals against average wasn't because Columbus. All right, there you go. You're all caught up. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing right through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.